Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is David Lubar, and I'm very proud to be a co-chair for today's forum, along with Linda Gorens-Levy and Greg Marcus. We wouldn't be here today without the tremendous support of our sponsors. And I thank you for making this event possible. A signature event of the Milwaukee Jewish Federation, the Economic Forum is truly unique to our great city of Milwaukee, and we are so grateful for both our continuing supporters and our new supporters. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg Marcus, and like David, I am proud to be serving as a co-chair for this one-of-a-kind event. For the last 7 years, it's been my pleasure to host this event at our beautiful Pfister Hotel in downtown Milwaukee. All our hotels, including the Pfister in St. Kate, our restaurants and theaters are open for business again. Life is returning to normal, and we can't wait to welcome the Economic Forum back to the Pfister this fall. I'll pass it over to my fellow co-chair, Linda Gorens-Levy, who will introduce today's program.
In just a few minutes, our fabulous participants will begin their discussion. Our featured guest today is Chef José Andrés, a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, a multiple James Beard Award-winning chef, and the 2018 recipient of the James Beard Humanitarian of the Year Award. Joining Chef Andrés is co-owner and chef of the Tandem restaurant, Cullen, co-founder of the Shindig Sauce and Spice Pizzeria, Freedom Endeavor, and the Sherman Phoenix, JoAnne Sabir, partner at OMB Consulting, Carnevor Restaurant, the new 3rd Street Market Hall, Omar Shaikh, market president and publisher of the Milwaukee Business Journal, LaFond, who will be moderating today's event. Today's forum will be a bit different than previous years. Instead of a keynote address, we will be having a panel discussion moderated by LaFond. I'm looking forward to a robust, open discussion about food as a challenge and an opportunity in our Milwaukee community. And now, a few words from Miriam Rosenzweig, the president and CEO of the Milwaukee Jewish Federation.
Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Miriam Rosenzweig and I'm the president and CEO of the Milwaukee Jewish Federation. Now, I've lived in Milwaukee for 2 years now, but one of those years was in the pandemic isolation. So I look forward to meeting all of you in person at this fall's in-person Economic Forum. I'd like to share a few words about our organizations and why we're hosting this community conversation on the economy today. The Milwaukee Jewish Federation develops and distributes more than $20 million annually to organizations that help build community in Milwaukee and beyond. Tackling food insecurity has always been an important part of our work. The pandemic dramatically increased the need for food among vulnerable populations, and we were here to help. We supported organizations doing this important work. I'd like to share an example. One of the organizations we supported distributed over 225,000 meals, over 100 tons of food to children during the pandemic. And I'm pleased to report that if portions of the dollars raised today will go towards our food response programs and the work of Tandem Milwaukee. While our mission is to take care of the needs of the Jewish people and build a vibrant Jewish future, we know that we can't do this without a strong and vibrant Milwaukee. We all need a strong job base, a well-trained workforce, a terrific education system, a stable economy, and an inclusive community that embraces diversity and welcomes all. None of this happens unless we all work together. Which brings me to the topic of this year's forum and why we are presenting the program that we planned for today. Food is an integral part of the vitality of our city and a huge driver of Milwaukee's economy. We're going to learn about the impact of the pandemic and the amazing response to our city's food-related needs. We'll learn about both the pandemic and the opportunities and challenges that were presented by food. And we find ourselves discovering what post-pandemic life will look like. We're also going to hear about the hope and resilience of our business community from the various perspectives of our panelists and talk about the future of Milwaukee using the lens of food. This event is also a thank you to every single one of our sponsors who have been with us through the last 7 years. You have supported this event and have been here for us to help others, and we want to thank you for that support. Thank you to our event co-chairs, Linda Gorens-Levy, David Lubar, and Greg Marcus, and to our marvelous professional team that orchestrated this virtual program for today. Thank you to our featured speaker, Chef José Andrés, who took time out of his busy schedule to join us, Milwaukee, and tell us about his work. Thank you to the panelists who represent the best of our business community. And a big thank you for all of your support. We also want you to know that the Federation has retooled our entire corporate engagement programs, and we now offer year-long packages to help promote your businesses while doing good. Please let us know if you're interested in hearing more. With that, I invite our MC, Kira LaFond from the Milwaukee Business Journal, to begin our conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Miriam. And welcome, chef, restaurateur, and founder of the nonprofit World Central Kitchen, Chef José Andrés. Chef Andrés has worked in Haiti after the 2020 earthquake and relief for the many, many other victims of disasters. Works with the DC Central Kitchen, the LA Kitchen, the American Chef Corps, the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves. And the chef has now been feeding hundreds of people every day right here in Milwaukee by supporting the Tandem's pivot to a community kitchen during the pandemic. Chef, could you join me on screen? Welcome,
Hey, how are you?
José Andrés. And you're helping feed people all over the world, but right here in Milwaukee. And not only are you leading this important philanthropic work, but you continue to help educate our future leaders by developing cooking and education programs, while also owning restaurants all over the world. I have no idea how you do all that and still feed people delicious food. But talk to us a little bit about how the pandemic put a laser focus on the importance of healthy, reliable food for our communities, and how this experience has perhaps forever changed the business of food and maybe even the restaurant business.
Well, I think in this pandemic, we all realize, since it began very much in the last days of 2019, and we all wake up on 2020 listening about COVID that seems something far away, and that this was only happening in some communities and cities in China. And there we saw the importance to understand that we all think we are different tribes, different people, different colors of skin, different religions, different countries and countries within the countries. And that we are all growing under this kind of nonsense idea that we all should put everybody that is like us behind a wall so we can be protecting them. And we are all realizing that we are all together in this planet, that this should not be about higher walls, but about longer tables. And that a pandemic like COVID-19 has shown that we can only get out of this mayhem by working together, by being next to each other, to make sure that the richer communities, so the communities are doing better, must be next to the poorer communities, so the communities are not doing so well. Why? Because this pandemic has shown that this keeps moving. When we think we were safe, all of a sudden the pandemic went up in America. When we were watching what was happening in Europe. Now that we are safe here, we see what's happening in India. And at the end must be the destiny of every country, of every community, of every person, to be next to the voiceless, to be next to the forgotten, to be next to the hungry, because we don't know when we may be next. So if for anything, even if it's a selfish thing, to say, let me help others so they can help me, that's fine. I take it. I don't care. But then when we bring empathy and we bring care and we bring the understanding that what must be good for me and my family and my community must be good for others far away from where I am, others that speak different than me or look different than me or profess a different religion than me. When we believe that those that are not like you, they are not your enemies, but the people that can enrich your life, and that you're going to be there with them in the good times, but especially in the not so good times. This is what this pandemic has shown me. I think is showing all of us. For me to have somebody like Chef Cullen in Milwaukee taking the lead when nobody's expecting her to take the lead, when she has to take care of her own business, of her own family, of her own restaurant, when she decides to go the extra mile and also bring this very simple idea to Milwaukee, that what must be good for her must be good for the rest of her community. This is why organizations like World Central Kitchen can do what we do. We only do it because it's women like Cullen, leaders in her community, that decides to build longer tables and to bring down the walls.
We are going to have Caitlin join us in just a little bit. And I love your imagery of the longer table. That's exactly what we see from Caitlin here, and it's what you're doing all over the world. Talk to me a little bit about how this pandemic put this laser focus on healthy, reliable foods. And can you talk to me about how the pandemic not only changed how we just treat each other, but how it may have changed the food business and the restaurant business, maybe forever?
Well, obviously, I'm very proud of the restaurant and the food community, because we've been there in the hardest, darkest hour.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in many places around the world in this pandemic. I remember being in Beirut after the big explosion destroyed a very big part of that beautiful city in Lebanon. And we were able to put chefs who were there already, part of their community, in a moment that everybody was, thinking what has happened without even having the answer. We were able to put together all this amazing group of people, not only feeding the few, that's what we do in our restaurants, but feeding the many. And I've seen this community after community after community in America and around the world. So this has changed the restaurant community in a way that we sense now more than ever the power of a restaurant to change a community by not only feeding the few, but being part of feeding the many. Well, by partnering with local food community kitchens, by helping lobby on the local, state, or a national level to be able to be part of the policy decisions that may be happening in our cities or in Washington, D.C., to understand that it takes 360 degrees to tackle many of the problems. So I sense that the restaurant community has realized that if we all come together as one, we are a very powerful force of good. And where food is something like can be bringing America together. More than 87-90% of Americans believe that every American should be entitled to food, to a plate of food, to make sure no children is hungry. So in a moment that is a lot of discord in the political spectrum, to see that food is actually something like brings everybody to the table, again, longer tables, this is something like the restaurant community, I think more than ever, we are highly aware. And that you may be a Republican or you may be Democrat. You may be Jewish or you may be Muslim. At the end, we are all people that we want to work together to offer our children a way forward and hope. And that's the way I see the restaurant community has been changed. Obviously, we realize that in this pandemic, we've seen that in America, we have 11 million or more undocumented. Those men and women, they didn't stop working every single day. So many of us, we could be in the comfort of our homes while the foods were being picked and delivered all the way to the doorsteps of our homes, so we could be safe at the expense of them working on and carrying all the pressure of feeding America and the world on their shoulders. It's about time that we give the opportunity to those 11 million undocumented ghosts of the system, but people that in many ways, they are as American as you and me, what they deserve. They deserve our respect because they are part of the American dream, even if we are not giving them that opportunity to belong. I think this has put the seed in all of us that those men and women, they deserve our respect by giving them a path to belonging, well, through a green card one day in the future, through citizenship. And I think essentially what I'm saying, we have many men and women working in America that they've been part of feeding America and cannot be anymore. That seems the people that feed America cannot feed themselves. This, to a degree, it's use a conundrum we need to resolve. The people that feed America and feed the world, they must be able to feed themselves and their families. If not, something is very wrong with the system. So fundamentally, I do believe that we see that many of the problems are actually opportunities. In the case of the power of the restaurant community to be obviously thriving with our businesses and creating jobs and creating prosperity and bringing life to our neighborhoods. But we've seen that if we come together, we can even tackle bigger challenges through policy or with boots on the ground, taking care of a hungry community and a poor community at the time. But at the same time, we realize that we could be even impacting immigration reform. What the immigration is not a problem for America to solve. It's an opportunity for America to seize. This pandemic has shown us why we need to pass immigration reform, because in the heart is how we feed America and is how we can feed the world. So this is what fundamentally had changed in the food restaurant world.
Yeah, I love the thought, the symbol of not only feeding people together at the table, but having everybody have a place at the table and a seat at the table for their future and their opportunities, and bringing together what is oftentimes a competitive operations in the restaurant industry, but using their sameness to work together to solve some of our main problems. I'm going to ask Cullen, who is the owner and chef of the Tandem, to join us on screen as well. Hi, Caitlin. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Awesome to see you at the Tandem.
I'm in here, baby. How's it going, Steph?
I wish I was having chicken with you right now, but Chef Andres and Caitlin Cullen, you guys worked together to feed Milwaukee. Caitlin, please tell me how this relationship got started. How did Chef Andres and the World Central Kitchen help you feed Milwaukee?
It happened so fast that's how I knew I loved him forever. Most things are bureaucratic and clunky, but truly we were here in Wisconsin feeding folks for about a month's time when a friend of mine, Tariq Moody from 88.9, had emailed, I think, info@worldcentralkitchen.org. And within 24 hours, I was on a call with, 3 of the head guys over at the organization. And within 3 days, we had a signed contract. I think it was 3 pieces of paper that basically said, you're going to get T-shirts, but you don't work for us. We'll pay you till we stop paying you. Keep feeding people. And it really, we went from feeding 400 or 500 people a day to, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 people every day of the week because of that.
Caitlin, can you tell us a little bit about how, for the people who didn't know, how did it work? You weren't cooking for 1,200 people in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a good chef. I'm not that good. 12 people a day all by myself. I mean, I can, and that would be everyone would get the same meal. We wanted to offer variety and have it feel more comprehensive for people, you know, a little less fearful. A lot of folks were standing in line for food for the first time. And so what we did was we just started paying restaurants what the World Central Kitchen was paying us. So in an effort to share the love, we've had over 50 restaurant partners here in Milwaukee who have been paid through the Tandem by the World Central Kitchen to make massive amounts of food. And it made the whole scenario a lot more fun, because when you're standing in a soup kitchen line, as opposed to being handed whatever bag we have for the day, in fact, folks were able to choose from 3 or 4 or 7 different dishes. And some of those dishes were from like James Beard award-winning restaurants that I couldn't get a job at, but you could get the food out of the front door. It was a massive effort.
Chef Andres, tell me what made you decide to so quickly jump in and help Caitlin out?
Listen, I don't decide anything. I believe that the world runs too much on pyramidal organizations. Pyramids are a beautiful thing, but for organizations and democracies, I do believe they are not the right thing anymore. Pyramids will make you behave like this, and somebody sits at the very top, and probably it's good people. Chances are they're good people. But when you are at the very top, sometimes they don't realize people are very alone. And then you have a lot of other people down the pyramid, in all sides of the pyramid. And actually you have young people, new people with very good ideas that they come in the bottom of the pyramid. And then is something called gravity that, yeah, is great for apples, but gravity, yes, they fall down, but ideas also, when an idea comes from the top, comes down very quickly because gravity. And when good ideas show up in the bottom, they have a hard time going up because gravity itself. And then you have good people working in different sides of this mountain, this pyramid, that because they don't see each other, they don't work together. All of a sudden, you are able to do this. And the pyramid becomes a fairly flat place. And your power is not because the title behind the door of your office, but it's actually because you are a person with boots on the ground. World Central Kitchen tries very much to believe that everybody can be part in different moments of sometimes leading by the front, sometimes leading by the back, sometimes being the one giving the speech, sometimes being the one listening. And this is what World Central Kitchen, I think, excels. Obviously, in Milwaukee, nothing will happen if we don't have a chef and a leader like Mrs. Cullen here. And I know, like her, many other teams, members in her team that I didn't have the option to meet that. But World Central Kitchen is not a José Andrés organization. World Central Kitchen is a Caitlin Cullen organization. We are in India right now. World Central Kitchen is Sanjeev Kapoor organization, one of the most beloved chefs in India. Every community we go, World Central Kitchen is the organization of those people that make it their own, and they are able to do something with it. José Andrés wouldn't fit anybody, period. So what we are building here is move out this the person, which is okay. Everybody should be proud of themselves, and that's a powerful tool. But also making sure that just by looking yourself at the mirror, don't think that you are the only thing. We, the people, it's a powerful tool if you really sincerely believe in it. And that's eventually, maybe that's why the W exists in World Central Kitchen. W for we, W for we, the people. And in essence, World Central Kitchen believes that some of the very big problems, they have very simple solutions. Thanks to the work that people like Caitlin did in Milwaukee and all around America and in many parts of the world, we've been, World Central Kitchen, we've only been a little drop of water in an ocean of empathy. But our drop of water creates a lot of noise. And we don't go use any day, we go in the hardest moment. When we show up in India is when the hospitals were very much collapsing, where the nurses and doctors didn't even have food to eat because they were working 24/7. They couldn't go home. People were not showing up in the food facilities, feeding the nurses and doctors. There is where we excel. When there is mayhem, is where that problem for us becomes an opportunity for service. And in essence, what we've shown, like what I didn't choose Chef Cullen. Chef Cullen, with her actions, made it happen on her own. And everything, because we believe in this flat structure, just happens naturally. Where there is a fight so hungry people may eat, I will be there. The main character in John Steinbeck's novel, The Grapes of Wrath, said, we made that phrase our own, and now we say, we will be there. Why are we able to be so quick and so fast? Because I always tell many chefs and many restaurants that they don't know it yet, but they are already our partners, and we are their partners.
That's
Happens,
fabulous.
unfortunately, that when there is a need, these things activate almost on their own. In the case of Milwaukee and Chef Caitlin Cullen, because she was a woman with boots on the ground, everything else was very simple.
Always. We can always count on Chef Caitlin Cullen to do that kind of thing. And Chef, when you had the mountain or the pyramid on screen, and then you flattened it out, it amazingly looked like a beautiful table. And I think that imagery just was beautiful. It's a beautiful table where things get done because it's flattened out. I appreciate the way that you bring people together and that you give them that kind of power. Caitlin, is there anything else you'd like to share about the relationship and about how this worked? And after this, I would like to bring the rest of our panel up. But Caitlin, do you have a few more words about the relationship with World Central Kitchen and Chef Andres?
I mean, I run my mouth about it a lot, so you guys have probably heard it all, but I just can't speak highly enough of an organization that does what it says it's going to do and is focused on basically doing the most good. And you know, here in Milwaukee, I'm always making up an idea and trying to just do it because it's something that has to get done. And I had never felt more liberated than being told by an organization much bigger than my little chicken shack that, you know, that's the way to do things sometimes. And that's how people get fed. It's the World Central Kitchen has put a massive amount of food in people's mouths here in Milwaukee. The World Central Kitchen has kept a bunch of restaurants in business that wouldn't have made it past this otherwise. And they gave me a lot of cool t-shirts. I have at least 3.
I love soccer and I love team and what the teams. So obviously we like the branding, not so much for the bragging rights, but gives a sense that you are one, that you have a common goal. It's a very visual message that you are part of something bigger than yourself. And this is something like, obviously, when we created that logo, World Central Kitchen, which is all these rainbow of colors, which is a very big pan to feed the world, is very much the message we wanted. We wanted to send. And obviously, Caitlin mentioned liberation. One of my food heroes, Robert Egger, a man that created a great organization in DC called DC Central Kitchen. And a man I've been next to it for since I joined him in 1993 in Washington, D.C., and where I began understanding the power of food to change communities. When I was 23, he told me that philanthropy seems is about the liberation of the giver, when philanthropy should be about the liberation of the receiver. It's okay to redeem yourself and feeling good by doing good, by donating hours or donating money or donating your brain and know-how. But I think it's very important to understand that people don't want our pity, people want our respect. I think it's very easy to understand that in a world that is plenty of food that is wasted, that if we put all our brains combined, we should be doing a better job to make sure that there is not woman going hungry in America, that there is no children going hungry in America, and therefore nobody hungry around the world. Part of what I love of what we did was not only the boots on the ground type of action, where we were able to respond in the middle of this pandemic to emergencies within the emergency. At the same time, we were able to be in Tijuana, feeding the many people just waiting there for I don't know, a better tomorrow, a better place for their families and their children. In the process, we did the hurricanes in Louisiana, in Lake Charles. In the process, we did explosions in Beirut, or earthquake in Indonesia, or right now that we are in Gaza, in Palestine, or in Honduras, or in Guatemala, or in Colombia, or in St. Vincent after the last volcano. I'm very proud of those men and women in World Central Kitchen that in the middle of the pandemic, they are responding to emergencies within the emergency. But what I love most by the actions and success of Caitlin and the many restaurants in Milwaukee that we were able to partner with and trying to bring solutions, we were able to do work on the Hill. One of the few bills even didn't pass, but I'm not going to get into the reason of the why, that got full bipartisan support was the FEED Act, which in essence was the same thing we were showing people how to do since March of 2020. I mean, World Central Kitchen has been feeding people in this pandemic since February 2020, when we began feeding people in Japan, in Yokohama, when the first cruise ship arrived with COVID cases, and we never stopped since. At one moment, 350,000 meals a day.
Wow.
But the FEED Act, in essence, was if we get the support of the federal government, private sector, NGOs like ours, and we are able to activate the restaurants that were being shut down,
Yes.
to maintaining the employees and the workers and the team safe, we were able at the same time not to be in the comfort of our homes, but understanding that was a need, the same way our nurses and doctors had to go to work to the hospital in the middle of a pandemic every day. The least cooks like us we could do was also be next to our community. The FEED Act, in essence, was let's make sure the federal government supports these programs in every community in need immediately, so the private sector in partnership with NGOs, we can be tackling the needs in every single city, in every single neighborhood. In essence, I'm very proud that even if didn't technically pass yet, that we were able to bring longer tables, to bring people on both sides of the aisle that they were not talking to each other, and have people like Tim Scott of South Carolina, Republican, with then Senator, now Vice President Kamala Harris of California, supporting the same bill and the same.
Amazing, right?
And this is what I believe food is, in essence, something like can be bringing so many of us together, because everybody, I believe, that nobody should ever be hungry ever again.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. It can bring everybody together. And speaking of bringing everybody together, I'm going to bring Omar Shaikh, partner of O&B Consulting, 3rd Street Market Hall and Carnevor, to the screen. And also JoAnne Sabir from the Shindig Sauce and Spice Kitchen, Freedom Endeavors, and the Sherman Phoenix. Please come to the screen, Omar and JoAnne. These are two folks who have been feeding Milwaukee as well. I see JoAnne.
I'm here. Okay.
Okay.
Because they shut me down first. I couldn't. Okay.
There we go. There's
Hey,
Omar.
JoAnne. Hi, Omar.
How you doing, Chef?
So Omar and JoAnne, talk to me a little bit about what the pandemic has taught you. What needs to change in the restaurant and the food business? I know neither of you are shy, so.
Yeah, I can join you.
Jump in and I'll share.
Well, first of all, I just want to say it's a pleasure to share the same panel with Chef Andres. Like, I hope you know that everyone in our business looks up to you. You are the trailblazer. So what we try to do, and I think from Caitlin and I know JoAnne as well, we try to do everything that you're doing on a local level. And so I think that's where it starts. To do it on an international level like you've done, it's incredible. So just wanted to say that. What was the question again?
So what needs to change in the food and restaurant business? What fundamental things do you think can change as a result of the pandemic that can make this a better place?
Well, I can tell you one thing. I mean, so I'm on the board, chair of a board of Wisconsin Restaurant Association called the Kitchen Cabinet. We work with about 40 restaurants. And I will tell you that things are starting to change and move in the right direction. You know, a lot of things that what Chef said resonated. Step one for me in this career was to take care of people within our walls. Because if we don't do step one properly, we can't take care of the people outside of our walls. And so I think we've done a relatively good job with that. And then moving on towards really helping different communities. That's what we've done through the Kitchen Cabinet. That's what we've done through a lot of restaurant partners. And really through the pandemic, it was just amazing to see is that so many restaurants stepped up, serve so many different communities, organizations, charities. So I think that a lot of restaurateurs get tied up into their own world, don't really look outside to be more than what just happens within their walls. And we're seeing that in Milwaukee, a lot of leaders stepping up, helping one another, and helping the community.
JoAnne, could you jump in on this one? Talk to us about how you managed several food-related businesses through the past year, and what's your forecast for the future?
You know, for me, and one, it is truly a point of inspiration and affirmation of the work that we're doing in community. It's one thing to say, you know, you're doing work on behalf, but I live in the community that is most devastated by, you know, the framework, not just of COVID. You know, we've been in and experienced kind of trauma in community for years, right? I can take it back to 1619 when we came here as slaves. We've been in the thick of trying to regroup, reform, and find some sense of reconciliation, not just as restaurateurs, but really as community. So for me, I'm inspired by Caitlin and Chef Andres, who are making the choice, right? Don't necessarily live in these communities, but are really filling a significant void by bringing the spirit of collective action to bear in communities, because it requires that level of devotion to understand that we have to continue to work on behalf of the greater good. So what Caitlin did, using the funding, was really keep a lot of the businesses within the Sherman Phoenix, which is a 29 entrepreneurial deep hub for entrepreneurs, alive. So there was this ability to, one, continue to live and to do the work of service by providing food. But we do look at food and entrepreneurship as a pathway for our communities to employment, but also it is a rally cry to understand that we can be of service while trying to survive. So we were in this space of figuring out how to survive and move quickly to the space of thriving, because of this notion that collective action is required for us all to stay in this. And so on the horizon, I don't know if I got to what's on the horizon, is to do more good. You know, we jumped in and we remodeled a building that was blighted. It was burned during an uprising here. And we decided that would be, our stake in the world, is to continue to do more good and provide opportunities for others. So our hope is to do more of just that.
So I have a question from our partners at PNC Bank. And I'll let anybody who jumps in, and if nobody jumps in, I'm going to call on somebody. But they asked, what has inspired you about the resilience of the people in the city and this business community? Does somebody have a story about resilience? And okay, how about Omar? Do you have, is there anything that surprised you or inspired you about the people?
About the leaders in the community or the restaurants in the community?
How people banded together to really get through this difficult time.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about that. You know, we've done, and like Andres talked about feeding all these people. I mean, but we felt on a local level, like, you know, the pandemic happened, collaborated with a lot of different organizations, and it was pretty unbelievable to see a lot of the corporations, leaders, three hospital systems that work with us in a very quick time frame, CEO types, to feed about 10,000 of the frontline workers. So a lot of the restaurants stepped up. I think we had about 5 restaurants altogether that stepped up. It was, during a time where CEOs of hotel or of these hospital systems, they're pretty busy, right? They knew that they had to collaborate and step up in a very quick time frame to work together to help people, right? And so that was kind of a humbling situation where a lot of the people from different worlds collaborated to feed about 10,000 of the frontline workers. Because if you remember, the frontline workers were working crazy hours and putting themselves at risk.
That is amazing. Somebody who spoke earlier in the program, I was just so impressed with what Greg Marcus and his team did after having to release some of their employees for that time period, brought in trucks and trucks and trucks of food and other toiletries and things to support their team and the community in general. And it was amazing to watch and see. That didn't go to waste. Chef Andreas talked about all the food waste and all of the things that go to waste in our country. And in this time, in this moment, nothing went to waste. Everything went back out to the people who needed it. I'm going to ask each one of you this question. So those of you who don't get called on first have to think really quick. This is from our partner at UW Foundation. I have given you a magic wand, and you can change one thing as it relates to our food system or food insecurity. Just one thing. Caitlin, what would you change?
I'd start paying people money enough to live their lives so that when the system collapses, I'm not staring at a line of restaurant workers who are figuring out where to get a meal for the first time in their lives, and start really paying people, documented or otherwise, an equitable wage for their efforts in our world.
Absolutely. Chef Andres, your magic wand, what does it do?
Well, just understanding that one simple thing alone cannot fix all the inequality problems that food access brings to the table. That I say that we need many things happening at the same time, and thinking that food can be at the heart, but then you have to be uniting everything. The U.S. Department of Agriculture alone is not going to end hunger in America. You must bring education, the Department of Health, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, understanding that food will only become an agent of change if we understand that almost every single department touches directly or indirectly. To give you an example, nothing more important than food deserts. I am really tired that we keep talking about food deserts. And I am even more tired of going to conferences that somebody very smart and somebody that has done things in their community. So we have ideas that prove already work, but that we keep talking about food deserts. We give a speech, everybody claps, people leave the conference, and the claps don't transform and turn themselves into real actions. If we will end food deserts across America, which literally directly impact the Black community, the Latino community, but also many of the white communities. I've been there, I've seen them. You go to Lake Charles with me, and you'll see how many people live of all types of colors and religions and different status, American born and immigrants. Food deserts are a reality. Why we need to end food deserts and why Congress can do so much to end food deserts. Because if we want to help people in need, people don't want our pity, people want our respect. If we are able to go to a poor community, name it, anywhere around America, and we say no more food deserts within 4 years, and we bring the power of the federal government, private sector, NGO, people like JoAnne and Omar and Caitlin, and then farmers, especially small farmers.
Yep.
And we are able to bring to those communities that right now, even when we give them snaps, the food stamps, can you believe that poor people cannot even spend snaps in their own communities because they don't have anywhere to spend it?
Mhm.
If we are able to help those communities to thrive with food trucks, with little markets, with little diners or restaurants, all of a sudden that money stays in their community. All of a sudden that community can create jobs of young men and women that come from within the community. All of a sudden, every dollar that comes from the federal government can be helping that community to move up, to give them hope, to rebuild, to make sure that the neighborhoods are cleaner, that the buildings that are abandoned all of a sudden shine with new possible business. That's why you ask me, this is the one thing that all of a sudden we bring USDA, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Transportation, because you need to bring those foods from somewhere. You bring the Department of Health because food is health. Good quality food makes communities healthier. You bring the Department of Housing and Urban Development. All of a sudden, between all of them together, everybody doing their investment, one community at a time, we can end food deserts. This can be one important leg of trying to build this long table where everybody can be part of.
Yeah, we need to get our bureaucracies, our pyramids, our mountains to your table and get it done. JoAnne,
I think
one
it's
thing.
Yeah, the one thing is do something. The one thing is get beyond these theoretical conversations and jump in. You know, it's important to understand our individual power and our individual responsibility. So do something. I look at our confectionate Yours, which is our bakery in the Sherman Phoenix, who gave out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cookies to frontline workers, and it became a movement. So do not diminish your individual power or ability, irrespective of what you may feel you have to offer. We all have something to offer, so do something. I very rarely am now speaking or talking because it's time to get to that point of action and into the mire and doing the work. So the call to action for me, the one thing would be make a commitment, hold that commitment. The pandemic doesn't, we may see the light, but there's still work to be done. So stay the course.
Thank you, JoAnne. Omar, your one thing you'd change with that magic wand?
Well, mine's going to be a little bit different. I think Chef touched upon it a little bit. Pandemic hit, we put together a group of about 25 operators, worked with MHC, the health department, worked with Milwaukee Medical College, and kind of helped establish a criteria to keep restaurants and the public safe. About 25 operators of us, and I will say on different ends of the political spectrum. So I tend to be more down the middle. There were people far left and far right. And so it was interesting working with one another, but we showed what we can do when we work together to get things done. So I'll just go into, if there's a magic wand, my life is very political, on a local level, but I also work quite a bit on the state. I would just say some of these operators in banding together, if we could get not in the heads, but if we could just have a seat at the table with a lot of operators, with legislators in a position of power, I think that we could help our industry at a much greater chance. And I think what Chef was talking about, he does it on an international level. I've done it on a local level, I've done it on a statewide level, but I've also run flat into walls at times. So getting both parties to work with one another, which we do, it happens more in Wisconsin here than people think, but getting legislators on board with our mission.
I have one more question, and we have about 5 more minutes. The Dohmen Company Foundation has asked this question. When it comes to health, we all know that food can be the culprit of poor health, and it can be an important tool to prevent and reverse disease. Tell me about some bright spots in the intersection between food and health. Where do you see additional challenges to be addressed, specifically in Milwaukee? Caitlin, would you like to start with that one?
No, because I run a fried chicken restaurant. I want to give it. I want to throw that away. No, can you ask it again? Because I want to make sure I'm catching it.
There's nothing wrong with fried chicken.
I know. In moderation.
We all
I
finger
think that
point.
this question speaks to not just physical health, but mental health. So what brings us together, and Caitlin, your work brought us together in community. So there was this big, heartfelt, uplifting moment for us to be together. So we often get mired in salads, right? And so when we talk about health and well-being, we have to think about our mental well-being. We have to think a little bit bigger. So I push back a little bit, Caitlin, and I think that you've offered us a significant amount of wellness. So when we think about wellness in community, I think we find balance, but most of all, a lot of us are looking to come together after being away from each other for so many years. So there's a call for healing in food, but providing that connectivity that lends to our mental wellness.
Yeah. Thanks, JoAnne. That's what JoAnne said. Also, I think for us in our little chicken shack, our thought of health and wellness maybe isn't always related to the food, but going forward, it's related to a sustainable work life. I mean, in the restaurant industry, we are all used to committing ourselves 24/7, 365 to making other people feel joy, often to the detriment of our workers, right? Who aren't getting paid sick leave, who aren't getting time to spend with their families, and who aren't getting a sustainable wage to support themselves long term. And that's our ongoing commitment now, is heading forward. Like, we are looking to ensure that everybody who works in our world has a life that is safe to live, that is worthwhile.
Omar, talk to me about some bright spots, and then we're going to finish up with Chef Andreas.
Some bright spots.
Some bright spots in the area between health and wellness and food. Do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I can point to JoAnne in this case, because I think that it's a matter of education, right? And so there's a lot of different areas that have access to whole foods, have access to great farms and things of that nature. I can tell you, when I eat very clean and I eat a lot of whole foods and whatnot, I'm a lot more clear in my thought. I'm a lot happier. I mean, I'm a true believer in diet is the best antidepressant out there. But I can give you an example of an idea that we do in Sherman Park every year. And the first year we did it, we had a bunch of soda and waters, and the waters didn't get, nobody drank the waters, and all the sodas and the high sugar drinks were drank and consumed. I think, JoAnne, was it our second year that you donated a ton of juice to our event? Yeah, and so it's like with waters, then that was like the only option for hundreds and hundreds of people. But they were getting, again, obviously, JoAnne had a juice bar, which was unbelievable. They were getting a lot of that juice from ingredients that are grown up from the earth. And you know what? It was just a matter of exposure and then saying, wow, this is really good, right? It's maybe better than the grape soda with 50 grams of sugar in it.
That's wonderful. And Chef Andreas, can you tell us about some bright spots you're seeing, not only here, but around the world, where people are using food to better their health and having more opportunities?
Well, I think on this phone call, Kira, having Omar and Caitlin and JoAnne, people like them three alone, they are the example of bright spots. People with boots on the ground, people that they have enough, trying to manage their own business, their own family, their own lives, and that they decide to step up and do more. They're the type of people that embrace that what must be good for them must be good for others. And that's, for me, one of the huge bright spots in this pandemic. And people like them are in every corner in America. And you talk about health, and I think JoAnne mentioned of that, right? It's not so much what's happening, but it's the realization that we are all becoming more aware that cannot be anymore that the people that feed America and people that feed the world cannot feed themselves. This has to end. That you have mothers working 2 jobs and they barely make it at the end of the week. We must be there next to them. Because at the end, one of the things I realized in this pandemic more than ever, even this is something I knew a long time ago, that the people that feed the world is no boys like me that sometimes seems every time they talk about a brand new restaurant, seems it's always a white boy like me there in the cover. You know who is feeding the world? Women are feeding the world. Women in every corner are the ones feeding the world. Not because it's their responsibility, but it's because I know they are in their communities leading the way to feed their communities. Doesn't matter where you are, in Gaza, in Colombia, who is feeding those communities, places in Africa. Those are women of the world. So if anything, I'm realizing that in the same way, I always speak about this with the most love and respect. I wish I was aware the moment my mom gave me physical love for first time in the form of food. I do believe all of us, we are so attached to food because the first thing we ever receive as a gift is when we are unconscious. And is when our mom, and if she was not able, our dad give us a bottle first time ever.
Yeah.
We receive goodness out of love, out of food. I do believe food is love, not in a romantic way, but in a serious, pragmatic way. We must end this system where food seems is part of every single problem we face. Food is an environmental disaster. Food is lack of health. Food is hunger. Food is lack of water. Food is inequality. And we need to transform food in the potential of everything can be good about humanity. Food is love. Food should be fighting against climate change. Food should be about making sure that we treat better the way we produce from beef to fish to vegetables, so we are not overproducing at the expense of other some having a lot and others having none. Food can be the way to fight immigration reform. Food can be the way to fight inequality. Food can be the way to show respect to the poor communities in America and around the world. Food, in essence, can be what built a better tomorrow. So we need, in this pandemic, I learned that many of us, we are aware of the power that food has. So it's not so much what we've done with it, but how we are being awakened and where we see that food can be the beginning of a path for a better tomorrow. That's what I love. If anything I can love about this pandemic is that we are being reawakened. And many of us, we said, food is not going to be the problem no more. Food from now on is going to be the path forward.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Chef. I will take back with that. Food is love. Food is love. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, panelists. Thank you to everyone. God bless everybody.
Love you guys. Thanks.
Bye, JoAnne. Bye,
Thank you so
Kathleen.
much.
Bye, Omar. Thank you. God
Have a
bless
Thank
you.
you so much.
Bye.
Hello again. Thank you all so much for joining us for our first ever virtual Milwaukee Jewish Federation Economic Forum. Thank you, Chef Andres and participants. And thank you especially to our sponsors. We hope to see you for our normal forum programming in person at the end of this year.